what is because you can't just tell somebody, make the right decision in every situation, because there are billions of possible decisions that we could make. And it's so difficult to know which decision is going to be the best. Do you think that I'm right or wrong or somewhere in between in my characterization of like tapping into that kind of universal nature, aligned with nature's storehouse of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, a way of framing this is...
Yeah, frame it in more of a logical way than my cheesy woo-woo, whatever I said.
No, I mean, I like that, but like, it's this idea of, and I find this in my own life, there's very few times when I'm genuinely confused about the right thing to do.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
99.9% of the time, it's just like, oh, the right thing to do is just kind of painful for some reason. It's going to be embarrassing or it's going to be hard, but it's like very rarely is that ever actually confusing. I think a way to frame this in Stoic terms would be, we're already logical creatures. So we're not changing. Like, Christianity gives us this picture of people who have fallen from grace, who have original sin, who are flawed, and who are fighting against our nature. That's not in Stoicism. We are rational creatures. And I think that the Christian idea, I think, really underlines a lot of the ways most people think about morality. But we're rational creatures. We just need to get back to that. We just need to be more ourselves. We're not changing ourselves or transforming ourselves. We're being more ourselves, being more moral and virtuous and rational we are. And so in that sense, you know, the capacity to infer these things and like reason properly is already a part of you. And you just need to cultivate that and gain it.
Yeah.
But not thinking about it like I need to get it from someone else, or I need to fight against the real me. You're not fighting against the real you. And there's like some Freud there too. You're being more the real you when you reflect and are rational. Yeah.
And you know, I guess the final thing I want to say before we jump into the question and answer with our wonderful guests here is you said something in our last interview, which I think can help us with this situation, which is that the Stoic should start his journey or her journey from the point of view of a skeptic, right? You should basically wipe the slate clean and say, everything that I see is a perception. I don't know if anything that I'm aiming at is truthful. And I think that can help us here, because that gives you a certain confidence, right? If you say to a student, listen, I genuinely don't care if you think you know you're right or if you think you know you're wrong. Let's forget about the idea of being completely right here. Just tell me what you think. In this decision in your life, what do you think is right? What do you think is wrong? Let's play around with it, right? Let's have a debate with yourself. If you give yourself that space, man, I've been thinking about this lately. You blew my mind when you said that. If you allow yourself that space to say, I don't know, I have no idea what's right or wrong, but let me just play around with it, right? You do get such a clarity, because don't you think that the biggest thing that gets in the way of our moral progress is the fact that we think that we know, that we think that we know what's right or wrong?
I would say, I mean, it depends on the situation, but I would say for most people, I mean, it's just kind of believing things for reasons that you have come to. I think even if you're wrong is like still a higher state of moral development than just functioning on what you've internalized or normalized. So I think that first step of kind of taking a skeptical position and then being like, this is the way I want to live my life, even if that second stage is wrong, because you're living actively, you're responsive to reasons now, you're forming your own judgments, you will correct and you will move. But if you just do the status quo, there's no room for correction unless the entire country changes. So yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, also just humility, right, is like such an incredible virtue. They talk about a thing in philosophy called epistemic virtue. So a character trait that helps you know things better. And humility is one of those. The more humble you are, the more receptive you will be to more information. And we have, I think, especially in morality, we can get very, very righteous and very not humble.
But like you say, that all stems from believing that you have all of the right answers. And you look at Socrates, right? And all of the brilliant philosophers who followed in his footsteps. It's like he was the smartest person because he knew that he didn't know. And like you say, that gives you
thing, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, like he knew that one thing, but the humility that comes from that, it's okay to not it's okay to not immediately have an answer. It's okay to wrestle with ideas, like wrestling with God. It's like or the logos. It's brilliant. I think that that's such a great place to. So go on.
Well, yeah, just I think like one thing that's helpful is they love the medical analogy. So they loved they said philosophy is like it's a cure for the soul. It's like I'm the doctor for your soul, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing you need is a diagnosis. The first thing you need is an honest evaluation of what is my body like? And maybe your body's in shape, maybe it's not, but you have to start from that honest evaluation, a non-judgmental evaluation. Because what are my beliefs? What are my values? That's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. But once you get to that point, then you're in a position to get to cure yourself, or in a position to get in better shape. But it has to start with that honest evaluation of where you are.